Hi friends! Welcome back to another video, or if you're new, hi, I'm Julia. I run this channel with Ben. Don't worry about him, he's nobody. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about tips for drawing backgrounds while you guys watch me draw this attempt at a background for this Mob Psycho speed paint. First I want to just explain the speed paint. It's just based on like an alternate universe idea I had in my head because Mob has like this thing with broccoli, and then I just got obsessed with the idea of broccoli and plants, and then instead of them being like having a shop called spirits and such, it's like plants and such. I don't know, it sounds cuter in my head. I'm not good at explaining things, so since I'm not good at explaining things, I'm gonna give you guys some tips on drawing backgrounds. So my first tip for drawing backgrounds is to always use a ruler or a grid when you're in the sketching phase if you're using perspective. So using a ruler or a grid is extremely help you and can definitely help you get some sharp lines and everything that lines up properly. You want to be careful with a ruler because sometimes you can do things at the wrong angle, but if you're using like some kind of app or drawing application digitally like Procreate, it has a built-in grid already. You can set your horizon line, everything like that, so it's super easy to use. But then my next tip would be to not rely on the ruler when you're doing your line art. And that's because, especially if you're drawing characters, you don't want your art to look perfect, if that makes sense. Because if you're drawing a character, everything you do is going to be organic because they're an organic creature. So you don't want all your lines to look sharp and perfect when you have this character that doesn't look the same, because then they're going to stick out from the background and look like they don't fit in. And if you want them to really fit in, what you're going to want to do is draw the background first and then add the character into it. So if you draw the background first, I obviously didn't do this here because it started as a sketch, but you'll see I end up using the rule of thirds. So after I draw the entire background, I end up adding another character into it, so it looks like he's part of the background and it's all cohesive. Onto the line art bit is, I'm not the best at this either, I'm still working on it, but you want to avoid tangents. And tangents is when you have a bunch of lines intersecting at the same spot. I'll put up like some kind of example that I would find online, but basically you don't want too many lines intersecting in the same area because it's going to draw your eye there, and it's going to be visually more difficult to understand, if that makes sense. Some tips for adding color too, I would say you want to stick to a color palette. Yes, like you don't want to go crazy, but at the same time, if you feel like something doesn't look right or something hurts your eyes and you can't understand why because you're looking at two different colors, I would suggest that you put it in black and white, and you'll notice that two completely different colors, if they're the same hue, I don't know the exact term, but basically, if you put them in black and white, they'll show up as the same shade of gray. So if that happens, that would be why it's hurting your eyes. So then you're going to want to mess around with the tone and the contrast of the color. But not only that, another thing about contrast is that wherever you want the viewer to look, you want to have the most contrast in the piece. So I wanted the viewer to look at Mob in the piece, the character in the front, obviously, right? So typically, you're going to want them to have the most contrast so their eye is drawn there, especially because I put him on the right-hand side. And because I'm from North America, we read left to right, so most people are drawn to look at the left side first. So to avoid that happening, instead of completely flipping the piece the other way, I just added higher contrast on my main focus. And that way the background still doesn't blur together. It's not all the same shade or tint or whatever, but you'll notice that you pay attention to him first, not only because he's in the front, but because he has the highest contrast if you show the image in black and white. So I hope that helps. Another obvious tip would just be always use reference. Always, always, always use reference. Everybody says this all the time, but try to find reference from different angles. Of course, video or real life reference is the best thing to have. If you only have a picture, just do what you can. I only had pictures for these. I end up cheating a lot because some stuff is further in the back, and I just copy and paste it, and I'll just like rotate it or flip it horizontally just so it looks different, or I'll use the same plant but I'll change like 1 or 2 leaves. You'll see me do that a lot just because it's in the back. Like, people don't stare at it as much as you stare at it when you're drawing something, but at the same time it just saves so much time and so much effort, especially if you're just drawing something for fun like this. Like, I didn't really plan on putting this on my shop, but it actually is on my shop. Self-plug, like, you can get it on my Etsy. I have it in 8.5 by 11 or by 4 by 6. Besides that, yeah, so I tried my best to keep most things organic, like with the shape and stuff like that. The only things where I used very, very straight lines would be like the flooring, because it's hard. The way I have it is it's hardwood flooring. It's just always going to be straight unless you have someone that put your hardwood in really poorly, but I want to pretend they didn't do that in this. Same thing with the desk. The desk is it's not an organic structure, it's man-made, so it also has straighter lines. Referring back to my point in the beginning, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but you know, I also tend to draw cubes all over the place. I don't use them as like, I'm gonna draw a box here, so I'm gonna put a cube. It's more so I know which side of the object is facing me and what proper dimension to put it in. So you'll notice in the right hand side behind Mob's like shoulder and stuff, I put some bowls there and stuff. It was just to help me understand the angle of the bowl. It's a simple shape, but it's still difficult for me to understand. My last thing, back to line art. Sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but back to the line art. I don't know if I did this in this one, but I definitely learned from it, and I should be continuing to do this. But same thing with the contrast with color, is you want to have the highest amount of contrast with the line art in the front, because that is your focal point. So the closer you are, the closer the object is to the viewer, the thicker you want the lines to be and the more prominent, and the further back that they are, you want them to be thinner and less prominent, so that your attention is drawn to the focal point of the piece. In this case, it would be Mob or Reagan. Reagan's my second focal point using rule of thirds, so he would be the second one, also because he's in the back there. So his lines are like a tiny bit thicker. I tried to like lower the saturation of the other lines just to blend them in, or I'll color the line art so people don't pay as much attention to them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are my main tips for drawing backgrounds. Obviously, I'm no expert. I'm still trying my best. I hate drawing them, but it's just so satisfying when you draw something with a background and it just comes together beautifully. Like, obviously this isn't my best work, you know, but I'm very proud of this. I did this a while ago and I'm still extremely proud of myself. Not to brag. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll show the finished piece at the end of the video, but also just thank you to everyone who's been supporting my channel. Thank you to everyone who's been here. I really appreciate everyone that watches my videos and comments on them. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate you, all like 10 consistent viewers that I have. I actually do. I'm not just joking about that. And if you watched the whole video right now, thank you, even though this was a more serious topic and I'm less joking around and stuff. I'm sure Ben will make it funny in the edits. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye!